Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust. Turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome. Happy first day of 2025, New Year's Day. This is our first show of 2025. My name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your host for the next hour. I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team based out of Sacramento, California. We are 45 strong up and down the state, which means if you think you have a paranormal need, we can get to you. It may take us a while because California is a huge state, but we will get to you. I'm really happy to be here. I hope you are. Tonight's show is going to be fun. It's a topic that I love, and it's from a state that I truly love because Ohio has the origins of my family. My father grew up in Cleveland. And I remember as a kid, we went out to the woodsy areas and caught fireflies. It was fun. Ohio was a fun place. But my guest tonight, Mike Miller, he has his own group out there, and they're out looking for Bigfoot, evidence of Bigfoot. Okay, that's another thing that holds dear to me. Since a kid, I've been fascinated by Bigfoot, and when I was living up in Montague, California, that was up northern California, we were only about 30 miles away from Happy Camp, which is almost the epicenter for Bigfoot sightings up in NorCal. And I remember going to dinner at the diner, And I remember going to dinner at the diner and seeing the Bigfoot researchers coming in from the field. And it was really cool because they would come talk to you. You could ask them questions and things like that. So this show tonight holds a really dear place in my heart to have this gentleman on. I do have 3 files to share with you that he sent me of different vocalizations. So it's good. It's going to be a fun night. So just sit back, like my intro says, sit back, put your fuzzies on, dim those lights, and let's relax. And we're going to talk. We're going to be talking Bigfoot today, okay? So let me get Mike on, and here we go. Let me get the chat room up. I see Marisa. I see Jerry. All right, so let's rock and roll, and let's get this thing going. Hey, how's it going?
Not bad. How's it going?
Great. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Tell us about you, sir.
My name is Mike Miller. I'm 60. I'm part of a group called the Ohio Night Stalkers, and we go out into the woods investigating, looking for Bigfoot, trying to gather evidence. We're more of a audio gathering kind of a group. We do recon during the day, and we will look for tracks and sign, tree structures and breaks and stuff. And we have made a few casts and taken pictures and stuff, but I set up audio equipment because for me, like Dr. Meldrum does the tracks and he's an expert and love him to death. Tracks aren't my thing though. And it's good. It's good that different people are doing different things. So for me, audio is really special because when you tell the story of what happened that night, if something were to happen, you can play what happened in that time. It was recorded when that moment happened. And you can listen to it more than once. And where a track is something walking by, and it could have walked by days, hours, minutes, weeks. That moment of audio happened right then and there. And then we can send that off. I send it off to David Ellis. You probably heard of David.
Right.
He's a professional sound analyst, and he analyzes the audio for me.
Fantastic. Have you ever seen one?
Yes, I've seen glimpses, yes.
Tell me about
it. Years ago, oh my goodness, probably it was before the 2014 stuff happened. It was probably before that, like 2012. This thing was approaching us coming up a hillside. And it was really deliberate when it stepped. It would take a step, and it wasn't trying to. Normally, they are real quiet, and you're straining to hear anything. And sorry, I talk with my hands.
That's okay.
But this thing wasn't doing that. This thing was walking up this hill like step, almost like, hey, fellas, I'm coming up. Don't shoot kind of a thing. And I've got I've got a Sony Handycam, and it's got night shot on it, and it's good about 25 yards, I believe. And
Mhm.
I'm looking into this screen. I'm watching where this thing's coming up at, and as it gets closer, there's only two of us, and none of us, or I'm the only one that's armed actually.
Mhm.
And that's what dawns on me at the last second is like, hey, if this thing gets to the top of the hill and charges, you're going to have to drop this camera and you're looking into a lit up screen, pull your weapon, and maybe do something, you
Mhm.
know. And all this is just happening really quick. And but what happened is the thing got toward the top of the hill, and one of the guys, his name is Mark. I won't give his last name. He turned on one of those million candle power spotlight things,
Yeah.
and when he did, I looked up and I seen it turn away from the light. I just seen maybe the shoulder and like the back side of the head, and it was gone instantly. And
Wow.
that was the first time. But
Fantastic.
second time, I've had glimpses of stuff which I really don't count because it's something dark and you don't know what it is. Could be anything, but it's kind
Mhm.
of weird where it happened, time and place. Um, but this last October, I got a pretty decent look though. We were at a new area. This logging company has recently purchased this land. It's been sitting dormant for like 3 decades. They're not tearing it all to heck.
Mhm.
Um, they just put a road in and then they teed it off, and they're just taking some of the old growth trees. But we're there during the night, and this thing we sit like in a circle, and we kind of watch different directions. We're facing different directions, so we're
Mhm.
watching 360. A couple guys went up the trail to try to, because sometimes when you do that, they don't like that. They like you kind of like, here they are, what are they doing? But then when someone walks away, like, what the heck's that guy doing? But anyway, um, this thing actually came out of the wood line and came out. The moon was out that night. It was very bright. And I had parked this. There was a huge row of trees, and I was kind of over in this dark blind spot. And I don't know if it didn't see us over there or it's all of its attention. It was watching. I could tell the shape of it, and I could tell the head and the way the head was turned. This thing is watching three guys going up a trail.
Hmm.
It's not looking my way, and it kept coming out. And mind you, even telling you this, I've not told a lot of people this because half of my brain says that's not what you think it is. You're seeing things, and the other half
Right.
of my brain is, because my one side of the brain is like they would never come out that far and expose herself. They just wouldn't do that. And then the
Mhm.
other side of my brain is, hey dummy, there it is. Look at it.
Mhm.
But it came out past the trees on its side, and the moonlight actually hit it, and it actually, I don't know how to describe this. It was actually like it shimmered. And a show I seen years ago that talked about it, and I'm cutting back to this, but it's
That's
to
fine.
explain kind of what I seen, I guess.
Mhm.
This show I watched talked about a hair samples they found, and they're between ape and human. They can't compare them to anything because they don't have nothing to compare it to.
Mhm.
And at the base of the hair, it's dark, but toward the tip of the hair, it's translucent, which means
Mhm.
it's clear. And I think that's how they blend into stuff. I don't think they have a cloaking device that is supernatural. I think this thing gets into where it's at and it just kind of disappears into it. And, even deer do that, you know,
Mhm.
and other animals. And I think the tips of that hair kind of absorbed that moonlight, and that's what gave it that shimmer. I mean, it was kind of unearthly in a way, but I could see the brown, dark brown underneath that.
Mhm.
And when I stood up out of my freaking chair and it turned and looked dead at me because it noticed the movement. And we're just,
Mhm.
I'm, and then it just kind of walked back into the woods.
Wow. That's rare for someone to have like multiple sightings in their lifetime, isn't it?
You Yeah, and I don't, and the first one was so, I mean, it was a second, if that, just
Mhm.
because of the light. So I
Mhm.
mean, I don't even really kind of count it, kind of don't, you know. It's definitely not
Absolutely.
a Bob and Roger kind of thing, but
Right.
just I look at it as luck. Nothing I
Yeah.
did, it's just luck.
Yeah. How frequent are the sightings in Ohio?
I'm not sure. My cat is coming over. This is Luna. Sorry, but
We call it
I
big feline.
yeah, follows me everywhere, even the bathroom, like a dog. But I'm not sure. I know I've looked at the sightings in Ohio and I've read a lot of the reports, and but I haven't counted the number.
Right.
I just think, and I'm not comparing Ohio to California or Washington
Right.
State or anything like that. I just think we have better chances to maybe glimpse stuff only because the woods aren't as massive as what you have out there.
Right.
Because Bigfoot in your area can step into the woods and he's gone. If he wants to keep moving away from you, he's
Mhm.
got miles and
Mhm.
miles and hundreds of miles to move away from you.
Right.
Where here, there's his regression path is not as big, and I
Mhm.
think that helps us in a way. And if we do a lot of recon. I drive for UPS. I've got maps, and I use a topographical map for waterways and stuff. And I look for heavy cover, a water source, and places that are really hard to get into. Because if it's hard for us to get into, they're going to like that.
Mhm. Mhm. So that's along the line of what I wanted to ask you next. Was that are there any particular areas that are more active than others?
There are a few. The one we concentrate on is like south eastern Ohio,
Mhm.
Adams County, Ohio, Scioto County. There's a park there. It's Shawnee State Forest. It's like 68,000
Mhm.
acres.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking because here, like, NorCal, excluding Washington, because Washington, is insane. We've got the Mount Shasta area, we've
Oh, I
got
love.
Happy Camp, and you've got Willow Creek. Where those construction guys were originally up there. So there's like three hot areas, up there where these guys are out searching and stuff. When you go out, and I understood you trained under somebody to learn about footprints. Let's talk about footprints a little bit, because they can like I'm aware of this too. Being a journalist, I'm a crime reporter by trade, so I've learned stuff from the
Evidence.
police as well. Yeah, as far as footprints go, things can get distorted. Even with mud. So how can you tell something that's been distorted as opposed to what could possibly be a Sasquatch? Do you know?
Most of that is just from like what I've watched, like Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum talking about it. Just the length of the foot, the width of the foot, and he explained the locomotion of this thing where the foot bends differently than a human
Mhm.
foot and kind of scoops the ground up as it goes,
Mhm.
and kind of telltale signs. I mean, the tracks I have found, um, the best set I ever found was in Clark County, Ohio, and I just happened to be going to look at something else, and I had to cross a dry creek bed, and as I was
Mhm.
crossing the dry creek bed, they were frozen in time in the mud, and but I know it wasn't a bear and it wasn't a human being. It was something
Mhm.
else, just
Mhm.
from the length and the shape.
And the depth, right? Because I mean,
Oh yeah, like
yeah,
he.
I mean, you get somebody that's like 6'2" out there walking around, and they're built like a wrestler, and he steps down next, or she, we don't know, and they step down next to one of these footprints. I mean, there's a huge difference between the depth that somebody 6'2" is going to get, that has meat on them, and something that's maybe a ton, or however much these creatures
Yeah,
weigh.
and Dr. Meldrum explained that. He said, some of these people that do the fake footprints, things are clever. Meldrum explained that when you strap an 18 or 20-inch long fake footprint
Mhm.
thing onto your shoe and you go out and make tracks, it acts just like a snowshoe. It distributes the weight.
Mhm.
So something that big that would be 800 to 1,000 pounds with a foot that size, and
Mhm.
it's only pressing down a quarter of an inch into the mud or ground. That's a telltale sign of a hoax because it should be a lot deeper than that.
Right. 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 Right.
So there's a sacrifice. You can go and put the length and the look of the track, but you're not
Mhm.
going to duplicate the actual dynamics of the actual foot in motion. And that's
Mhm.
what Meldrum focuses on. And he's so awesome and explaining that. I wish I could bring him to my job and say, hey, talk to my boss because he's an idiot. He doesn't believe me. Talk to him and make him believe, kind of thing.
Now, when you go out, like you said, you're going for audio, and I know there's a lot of audio out there. You got the Sierra Sounds out there. That's most popular. Then there's the other guy. I don't know what his if he's telling the truth or not that they speak English. That dude. But I
Why would
saw
this
the
make
look on your I saw the look on your face on that one. That's how I feel. So, do you generally go out at night to get these vocalizations, or can you pick them up during the day when you're out in the woods?
we've gotten lucky and got one faint during the day, but mainly at night. I just kind of feel that they like darkness. I think before we were here and it was just the Native Americans, I think they, were up during the day and they slept at night because,
Hmm.
Indians weren't knocking everything down to build a strip mall and they weren't killing everything left and right. Where, what we've done and accomplished. And I think they flipped their how they live to keep from running into us. But yeah, we
Hmm.
mainly set up at night just because I believe they would come in because they've got the cover. They like having the upper hand. They like having the higher ground. So
Hmm.
we don't normally take a position because the times we've taken a position up at the highest point of a ridge, kind of not much has happened because they don't like that. We have the upper hand. They're going to feel that we've got the power there, even though we don't. So we kind of stay below that high ground, and then
Hmm.
at night
Do you guys camp, or do you just get your stuff and get out?
just hang out for a while, several
Okay.
hours, sometimes
Okay.
till dawn.
Okay. All right. The woods are so dark. I mean, that could be unnerving. I mean, every little sound.
Yeah,
I've been out there. I've been there, done that. Every little sound out there would make you jump. How can you tell? Like, what makes these vocalizations so different?
the duration and the power. Um, I fished and did stuff and hiked and did all that before I was
Hmm.
even into Bigfoot. And I'm kind of familiar with what deers and foxes, raccoons, all that kind of stuff sounds
Hmm.
like.
Hmm.
Even bobcats, because they've got a kind of a otherworldly scream, and can be unsettling. But this thing is just it's different. Even the coyotes, because a lot of our recordings the coyotes seem to be with them. I don't know if it's a like a shark remora kind of relationship.
Hmm.
They scavenge off each other, but they're usually they're around together. And like David Ellis explained, a coyote communicates in a hertz band of 900 to 1200. It's not below hertz. It's not
Hmm.
below that. It's not above that. And you hear the coyotes with what we've recorded, and the coyote is a lot higher pitched, and still, even if it does a howl, even for a little bit of an extended time, it still goes back to that yippy kind of dog kind of a sound. Where
Hmm.
this other thing's not doing that. And we've got some recordings where this thing is actually sounding out vowel sounds. There's one that
Hmm.
goes from ooh ah back to ooh and
Hmm.
stuff. And you've got to be a primate to do that. A coyote
Hmm.
can't do that.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, Talking about the coyotes, and you just reminded me, like with the Sierra sounds, you can definitely hear the coyotes in the background howling. With those sounds. Have you ever heard anything? And I know you're out doing your own thing. I get that. Different areas. I'm starting to think it's like different areas of the U.S. is the kind of vocalizations they do, because I mean they got all that stuff going on up in Angel's Camp, where they actually sound either Asian or some type of Indian language. But have you ever heard anything that sounded like language at all?
Yes, a couple occasions. It was in the daytime. We were late in the daytime. It was starting to get dark. We were going to an area, and that was near East Fork State Park in Ohio, in a different area,
Hmm.
Claremont County. And we were going into the woods, and this couple with their dog were coming out,
Hmm.
and they looked at us kind of odd, like, why in the world are they going in there at night? It's almost nighttime. And we got in there, and something must have been watching them leave, and we could hear the what they call the samurai chatter.
Hmm.
And it was so brief, it was just like, hey, what was that? And then by the time you go to focus on it, it's gone. But we had a better chance of that. 2 years ago in July, we took Russ Acord from Expedition Bigfoot to our spot in
Hmm.
July. He went to Adams County with us, and a road that we have been being pelted with rocks on. They did not
Hmm.
like us in this area.
Mhm.
And we had rocks that night. We had a really, really good wood knock, but they were down. To our left was a ridge, and we were
Mhm.
down, and then there was a drop off to the right side of us. They were down in that valley below us, and there were two of them, and they were talking, and you could hear the chatter, and
Mhm.
your mind is like, at first I'm thinking, okay, we got somebody sneaking up on us thinking they're clever. So you
Right.
get so still and you're listening, like, I don't have to hear every word that, this is how your mind works, at least how mine works. I'm thinking, I don't have to hear every word they say to know what they're talking about. I just need
Mhm.
certain words like, hey, let's sneak up on them, well, whatever, something like that. And I'm listening, I can hear it, and it doesn't make any sense. None of the
Mhm.
words, it's like a foreign language. And
Absolutely.
I gave the recordings from that night to David Ellis. He was able to like flesh out the wood knock really well, and you can hear the rock because it pinged off my Jeep. But
Mhm.
as far as the chatter, since we're where it was at and the dish wasn't pointed in that direction, we had so many bugs that night making noise. He could not find it.
Mhm.
I wanted that more than anything. I wanted David to find that and be able to isolate that, because that's, to me, that is a major step up. It's not just a howl or a scream. It's actually, talking.
Mhm. You
But
guys will get there. You'll get
we
there. You'll get there.
we were not able to capture. I mean, if it was in that recording, it was just drowned out by everything else,
Yeah.
and not being in the direct path of the dish.
Yeah. You'll get it. You keep working at it long enough, you'll get it. Question in the chat room is: has anybody ever been attacked that you know
I've
of?
read stories of that. I could see that if they were provoked. And a
Mhm.
lot of people think they're like a big teddy bear. I don't know. I kind of look at it. I'm
Teddy
kind of
bear.
being realistic. I think they're just like people. There's probably good ones and bad ones. And if you're in the area and maybe they're tired of all their stuff, trees getting taken out, maybe you had to pay for it. But I don't know. I hope so. I hope, you know,
Well,
we,
let's let's make it a point to say they're not all like Harry. Okay, that's what I'm talking about, big teddy bears. They're not
yeah,
like Harry.
I think they're curious, especially the younger ones.
Yeah.
Because we've had them kind of come up a little closer, throw the rock. Like I've had little, really small, tiny rocks. We were not even bigfooting. We took a night. We decided to have a cookout, and we had a
Mhm.
fire going, because like when we do our thing, we don't have lights on, no lights, no fire. We're sitting there in pitch darkness. This night we stayed back where we were camping at, and we had a fire. They came to us, and they were throwing very small rocks at us from below up over, and they weren't trying to hurt us because the rocks were small. They were hitting us in the leg, hitting us in the shoulder. They weren't trying to hurt anyone, but they were just like messing around like teenagers.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think anything and everything's probably possible. I hope, I pray to God that I don't ever make one mad.
Yeah, because there are those stories that are out there. I think with the, like you say, with the curiosity thing is interesting because I know there's a lot of stories up in Northern California where people are driving and they get tired and they pull over to sleep on the side of the road in their cars, and then they'll feel the car shake, and they wake up, they look in the rearview mirror, and there's two eyes looking at them. So, like you say, it's curiosity because I mean, here it is out in the middle of nowhere. They come up on this vehicle and they're going to check out what's in the vehicle.
Well, what was that story from California maybe 3 years ago? And it was on the national news where the one kid, little blonde head boy, I don't know if he was 7, 8, 9 years old, maybe older, younger, but he went missing for a few days,
Mm-hmm.
and he was found safe. And he said that they actually reported this on the news. They said a friendly bear carried him to safety. And
Mm-hmm.
bears don't walk upright to be able to hold
Mm-hmm.
a child. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. And a lot of skeptics say, "Oh, Bigfoot, that's a bear standing up." Any video, if you, I'm sure you've seen it, when a
Right.
bear stands up on its hind legs and takes a few steps, they look clumsy. They look like they've been drinking.
Yeah.
They don't look fluid.
Right.
And no, that's not a friendly bear carrying his kid around.
And generally, if it was, the bear would have grabbed it by the back of the neck back here like a cub,
Would
to
have
bring
been
the kid
dinner.
around.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, dinner.
yeah, yeah,
Well, that throws you back to that Albert Ostman story, which is kind of interesting. That
yeah.
the guy that got kidnapped and he was up there for like a week with them and then finally escaped. So I mean, the possibility of what happened to this kid is yeah, it's a great possibility. That's what actually happened to him up there. Do you think Since people have become more aware of, like in your state, since people have become more aware of the Sasquatch being up there, do you think that there's a lot more reports because people are more observant about it?
I think there's more reports now because people aren't afraid to come forward. I think
Mm-hmm.
back in the, I'm 60. I think back in the 70s, 60s, and 70s and all that, I think it was like, hey, don't talk about this, because people are going to, the neighbor's going to think you're crazy kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of stuff is kept hush hush. And now, Bigfoot's kind of celebrated,
Mm-hmm.
somewhat. And I think people will talk about things.
It's kind of like ghost hunting now.
Yeah.
Because, when I first started 20 years ago, excuse me, when I first started 20 years ago, it was all hush hush. You're doing what? Blah, blah, blah. But now, since it's been on TV, it's like everybody and their brother is like, oh, yeah, 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 you're a ghost hunter. That's really cool. Blah, 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 blah. So I think I agree with you on that, to where I think it's gotten out in the mainstream. It's gotten out in the mainstream. So when you go out there, how desolate of an area do you go? How far do you hike in, usually?
It's pretty desolate. We make sure we do a lot of daytime recon because I'm a firm believer in I want to know what I'm getting into at night. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to drive into an area and it be someone's property or unless we have permission to be there and run into people, that could be living there that are off the grid, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, drop offs, terrain. So we research thoroughly. We go into areas away from people. So try to find an area that's pretty gnarly, but it's got some access, and
Mm-hmm.
we just kind of we plot it out during the daytime, then we go back there at night.
Mm-hmm. Have you heard any stick communication?
We've heard the wood knocks. Yeah, sometimes I
Okay.
think that could be them knocking to say, "Hey, we got company," and of course you're the company. They're
Yeah.
announcing. Now there
Yeah.
was a year or so ago, we were in an area, and they were doing the wood knocks. They were more of a quick, rapid kind of response, and they were in different areas. And
Mm-hmm.
there happened to be a deer. We were in an area where we were in a heavily wooded area, but there was like an opening, and then around this group of trees, there was a creek running through there. There was a big field on this other side of this group of trees, and we had a night vision, and there was a big buck over in that field, and I think they were actually triangulating that freaking deer. They were hunting. I think those knocks were for Mr. Deer, not us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Another question I had for you is, I was reading your biography, and you mentioned that you had learned also how to tell a Bigfoot structure versus something else in the woods,
yeah,
something more
George,
natural.
yeah, George Taylor from Minnesota took me under his wing. I
Mm-hmm.
initially, long story short, got into this because of a news report on Channel 7. Local
Mm-hmm.
news talked about a sighting in Ohio, and I thought it was ridiculous. And I watched all those shows growing up on ghost, aliens, Bigfoot, and I thought if anything like that was real, it had to be Pacific Northwest, California, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. Not in Ohio. I didn't think Ohio had big enough sections of woods
Right.
for anything like that. But I looked online, found some reports, read them, and then I kind of got sucked into this anyway. Um, this one guy, Gay Mosier, was sending me some photographs taken in Ohio, kind of blurry. He was having some health issues at the time, and he suggested George, and George took me to some local places, or within 20, 30 miles, and we would walk the trails in some of these places, and then we would go off the trail even though we weren't supposed to, and he would show me tree structures, and he would show me the difference between natural storm damage and unnatural.
Mm-hmm.
And I seen some crazy stuff. I seen a tree bent and driven into the ground like the St. Louis Arch. I seen an area where there was just a total beautiful canopy above me, but something literally had walked through there. And I've seen deer trails. I've seen like where a game trail where deer will go through and it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of wore out and you can kind of see where something moves. This was like that, but way higher. And
Mm-hmm.
something looks like it went along to the right side and there was trees, as big around as this, a bottle. And it snapped them, but they weren't just snapped and laid over. They were laid over also in the same direction, but they
Mm-hmm.
were twist snaps. So whatever, when it snapped the tree, it did that because the wood was actually spun. And lightning blows stuff out, and it's
Right.
got a different look. It's not twisted like that. And if that was the wind that did that, all this other foliage and stuff up here would have been ripped the heck out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like something just went through there, and it was about a 6.5, 7 foot height, and snapped them over and just laid them. And he showed me a lot of that, and there is a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you pick places to go do your research?
Some of it comes off of the where the other sightings have been,
Mm-hmm.
but there's been quite a few in that Shawnee State Forest area, and we just kind of duck in and around there. A lot of the
Mm-hmm.
places. One thing I want to say real quick about those tree structures, because we would find some that were like a teepee kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they weren't big enough to sleep under. And I would think, why would they do this? And I'm like, is it a young one practicing? Is it, like,
Mm-hmm.
didn't make sense? And then we actually found one of them along a game trail where the path was worn really heavy, where the deer were coming through there,
Mm-hmm.
and there was one right off to the side of that, and I believe that, and it's just my belief,
Sure.
theory, whatever, that is their version of a deer blind. They build that, they hide it, and it's just enough to kind of break up their pattern, and it's an ambush point. But that's just a thought.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, they're highly intelligent anyway. We know they're highly intelligent. Any animal that could hide from this society, as busy as it is highly intelligent. When you talk about not believing that they were in Ohio, here's what happened to me. And I'm not. This isn't Bigfoot related, but we live about 3 miles from the river. Okay, highly populated area. Okay, I spent my nights walking up and down the streets, playing baseball and doing everything else in these streets. Okay, the only time I've heard of coyotes out here is within the last 5 years. That there's actual coyote dens like 4 blocks away. Over at the local park, and it boggles my mind because I'm out there at night. I don't see anything, and in order for them to come over and be in this area, there's two major streets that they have to cross to even get over here, and it boggles my mind. So, like you say, you're not thinking, oh no, Ohio's not going to have Bigfoot or whatever. You never know with animals. You just don't know.
That's true, because you've got something could cross that street at 2 or 3 a.m. If no one's awake to see it, doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because we had a lady that lives in Fayetteville, just outside of Fayetteville, Ohio, and she had contacted us and went there, and she had tracks to the snow in her yard, and I knew they were legit because they don't walk like us. They walk like a
Right.
tightrope, 1 foot in front of the other, and there was space in between. And what the lady was just like really frightened, and she said this thing crossed her back fence to come into her backyard. It was chasing a rabbit, and she said she had a brand new she shed back there,
Mhm.
fence post, all that was new, wasn't rotted out, wasn't cheap. And when this thing had went over the fence, it kind of like steadied itself at this corner of the shed and this fence, and it actually snapped some of those those boards,
Mhm.
and they weren't rotted, And she couldn't believe why it ran around her house to the front yard, and there's a street light out there. And she goes, "Why would something do that?" And I said, "If it's hungry enough and it's desperate, it's going
Mhm.
to do that. And if you're not out here to see it, it doesn't mean that it happened." And all the neighbors in that area, all the critters, they said, went missing. The raccoons, deer, vacated, squirrels, they couldn't see nothing. It's
Mhm.
almost like something was in that area, ate everything, and then took off.
Question to the chat room: do you guys carry firearms when you're out there?
Yes. Uh, that's not really mainly for
Mhm.
Bigfoot. That's for our own peace of mind, because just in case you run into some, crazy people, or there's coyotes. We've had the coyotes come in insanely
Mhm.
close a couple times, and in a pack, they are dangerous. And there are bobcat there, and supposedly people have caught, bigger
Mhm.
cats than that, and there's bear also in that area. So that's kind of just to be safe.
Gotcha. Another question is: do you think Bigfoot is carnivorous or a vegan? A vegan.
I think they
Vegan.
I think they eat both. I think they eat anything, nuts, berries, meat, uh, tree bark,
Mhm.
whatever, fish.
Whatever they have to survive on. Do you
Yep.
think they migrate, or do you think they generally stay in the same areas?
I used to lean more heavy into the
Mhm.
migrate thing, especially with Ohio, and I'm kind of like, who would want to
Right.
be here for the winter? You know, I don't be here when it's not winter, but but I had to throw a joke in there. Um, but we have learned through a couple of our contacts down there. One is she's
Right.
Native American, and not like 5%, like 50. Um, there is an extensive cave system in that area. Part of that cave system hooks into another that was used as like the freedom
Mm-hmm.
route for the slaves, you know, way back. And if there's that much cave area down there, and especially like you got the caves in
Right.
Kentucky and all that, they don't have to go all the way to Florida for the winter. They can hole up in them caves because it'd be a lot warmer in the
Mm-hmm.
cave,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Plus, Ohio has a lot of water. I mean, you got to figure it rain. I mean, we'll talk about the summer. The summer thunderstorms. I mean, there's a lot of thunderstorms. In the summer there. Plus, you've got all that snow melt off, everything, and that's a good place for them to be. So between the game and the water, why move, right? Why leave? Why leave?
Yeah.
When you're just gets back to the audio a little bit. When you're recording the audio, have you sat there at camp and recorded it, or do you leave camp to go record it? You go to other areas.
No, it's there where we're at. We're recording stuff at an area.
Mm-hmm.
We're there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're hanging out. Normally, I have a 22-inch parabolic
Mm-hmm.
dish, and I hook it into a recorder, and I kind of look around and kind of guess. Hey, I think this is I think the sound will come up best maybe this way, or they might be to this side, and you're guessing. And I'll set the thing up in a nice spot, or sometimes there isn't a good spot. I don't want it down on the ground usually, so I'll put it up on top of
Mm-hmm.
the vehicle
Mm-hmm.
and just let her run all night. And then, stuff happens. I have to go back and sit there and painstakingly listen for things. And then I isolate that and then send
Mm-hmm.
it to people and then like
Mm-hmm.
send it to David if it's good enough. And
I was just
so,
thinking of somebody wanted me to join BFRO like 15 years ago, and they gave me the handbook. And I thought, okay, I'm game. I'm game. Until I read one part of it, and I just went, no, not happening. The part that got me in there was we'll have you walk. If you're female, we'll have you walk down a very lonely road at like 2 in the morning in the dark. We'll hide in the bushes. And if one comes out, we'll protect you. And I thought, no, I'm so done with it. you know, I thought, that's crazy. And so that was the turn off. And I just went, nope, not for me. Sorry.
uh, this is a dangerous slope for me because there's some people in that organization that are nice and
Yeah.
some that aren't. Um, we one of the people I talked to, I won't even name them, they wanted us to turn all of our stuff over to them and then step aside. I'm like, no, we're
Right.
part of this. We're the ones that were out there at 2 or 3 in the morning. And, but no,
Yeah.
no, I guess I just
No.
won't say
But
anything.
that's what I honestly say that I was considering it because the people that were in there were on my team, my paranormal team at the time. They were real smart people. But when all it took was that paragraph, and I'm like, I'm not walking down some lonely road by myself in the dark, hoping that you guys can save me if you're hiding in the bushes. If one of these things comes out, no, thank you, nope, not happening. All right, you did send me some clips. Unfortunately, I saved them, but when I brought them over to restream, the names aren't on there. So I'm gonna have to guess a little bit on what these were because I know I uploaded the bridge, I uploaded the whispers, and I think I uploaded the extra stuff that you sent me. So maybe you can tell what these are
Okay.
as they come up. Okay. All right. So here
Okay.
we go. I believe this is the bridge, you guys, and we got some sounds of Bigfoot. Okay.
Yeah, that was, we call that area the bridge because there's like a little metal bridge right there where we were at. That is the David Ellis version of that recording. The original recording, there was a lot of background noise because it had
Mhm.
rained heavily before we went out there that night. That's the night that put us on Tearing the Woods. We were the season one of that episode, Hunted by Bigfoot, and that happened October 11th, 2014. Um, but David Ellis looped that three times. It
Mhm.
repeats, as you
Mhm.
could tell. And that recording, he said, on the spectrograph, pegged higher than a baboon.
Okay.
So that's evidence. So Mr. Skeptic out there, or Mrs. Skeptic,
Right.
that's evidence because that's, and you can hear the actually coyotes. He subdued them, but you can still hear them in the background. And at the end of that recording, where he's going, whoa, 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 he's mimicking the
Mhm.
coyote.
Mhm. And I've heard howler monkeys. That's even a completely different sound, from a howler monkey. Yeah, definitely not a coyote. That's very interesting sound. But yeah, that is a totally different sound from any ape any monkey or ape that I know that I've heard in the past. Cool. I have another one. Let's see what this one is.
That's from the area where we took Russ. That was me whistling. I did like
Mm-hmm.
three whistles, different octave each time, and they didn't like that, and they threw the rock and hit my Jeep.
Wow. Whatever you did was
Yeah,
offensive.
that was.
You made
They
them
didn't
mad.
like it. I think you hear that boy in the background saying they didn't
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Do you ever worry again before we get to the next one? Do you ever worry that you're going to say or do something that's going to irritate them? I mean, it's just like you did just then, but I mean, majorly irritate them.
What we did kind of, I'm not even sure what week that was, but we had went to this spot. We had left it alone
Mm-hmm.
before, but we went there. We would kind of daytime recon it, and there seemed like there was stuff going on. Like this tree got kind of
Mm-hmm.
pushed down, and it didn't appear like
Mm-hmm.
storm related. And it's like, hey, something's trying to block this area off. So we started going there that year, and the first time we went there that year, um, we call blasted a wolf howling. And just to kind of, we set up, backtrack a second there, sorry. We'll sit in the dark and talk normal voice for about 30, 40 minutes to see if anything happens. And if nothing happens, then we'll call blast
Mm-hmm.
an animal sound. So we call blasted a wolf howling. Nothing happened. Waited a half hour. We call blasted wolves howling. And after we did that, we got a response to that. To me, it sounds like if you've ever heard a recording of a
Mm-hmm.
gibbon monkey, it sounds like that. And it actually came across the ridge over here on this side and down
Mm-hmm.
towards us, which, that's not a deer sit
Right.
down. They don't come towards the sound that freaked them out. And about maybe then
Mm-hmm.
it stopped. And then about a half hour later, they started pelting us with rocks. We went that same location 2 weeks later, and we didn't even have to call blast. They freaking started throwing rocks. And then that whistle rock was from a time after that,
Mm-hmm.
same spot.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
That's where
Have
we
you
took
ever taken
Russ.
any of these recordings and actually played them out in the field to see if you can get attention with them?
Yes, we played them on that road. It's just it's tough to, like, I have it on my phone, but you lose signal and then you just can't get it to
Mm-hmm.
play. I'm going to try to remedy that this year. There's a call blaster thing. There's one you can get now, and you can download your audio
Okay.
onto it. So I'm going to look into
Because that
that.
would be interesting to study the results and what sounds come back. I have a last one, and I think it's the
What,
whispers. I think it's too bad they didn't leave the label on them. That's what that you know. I'm just starting over here at Restream. It's the first month I've really used Restream. I've always been a StreamYard, so everything's different. So I'm thinking this is the whispers. You know more than I do. So here we go.
That is from Memorial Day this past year, 2024. That's that new area that they just started logging. That was the first time we went back in there. That is labeled, I think, Hidden
That's it.
Valley
Yeah.
Angry Giant. Okay, and there's like a coyote there at the beginning of that. There's coyotes in there. There's a lot going on in that thing. But we had call blasted the
Mm-hmm.
wolf howling, the single wolf, and then all that started. And then that thing that comes in, I don't know if it's in the middle of the recording, that really deep, that is Big Daddy, and he is not happy. To me, that's him saying, "Hey, Mr. Wolf, this is my freaking yard, not yours." And if you listen behind that major roar in the middle of that, you're going to hear one of them. You're going to hear one of the howls turn into an ah sound. It goes from a ooh to a ah, which is a big thing. That means it's not a coyote. And then there's another one in the background, like a kind of a almost. A couple people have said almost like a almost singing in a way, kind of. But there's a lot going on. But that was from Memorial Day in
Let's play
Adams
it again
County.
so we can hear that stuff. Here we go. Let's try this again.
And concentrate. You'll hear the big
Mm-hmm.
howl in the middle there, and then listen to all the craziness
Okay.
after that.
It almost sounds like a woman singing in the background.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Wasn't none of us.
Yeah. It sounds like a woman in the background. That's incredible.
This area, our guide that's lives has lived in that area her whole life. This is an area where all these different valleys and areas kind of go into this area, and she said a lot's happened. There was a lot of battles between early settlers and the
Mm-hmm.
Native Americans, and she says there's a lot more than just Bigfoot roaming around, and it's a lot going on, and you kind of feel that when you go back in there. It's like, wow, we have left the freaking
Right.
zip code going in here, and it's an area just like some of the other areas we've went into that were spooky during the daytime. As soon as you're there at night, you're on guard, you're
Mm-hmm.
on high alert, and you just kind of know, you know, it's just you got to be
Mm-hmm.
on your toes.
Well, I mean, I used to go fishing, camping, and hiking, and all that stuff. Everybody thinks the forest is so peaceful, but it's really quite noisy. It's quite noisy at night.
That's quite beautiful to hear the stuff, the moonlight coming through some of the
Mm-hmm.
trees and stuff is really nice, and I'm thinking there's a lot of people, even a lot of times we go out, nothing happens, we don't no Bigfoot, just
Right.
animals. We've had deer walk up literally right there to us and look at us like, what in the hell are you doing here? In the dark kind of thing. But I just think of all the people that are home in bed and they're missing out on
Absolutely.
that.
I went camping by
There's a
the ocean once, and left my tent flap
oh wow.
open because by the ocean, you're enjoying the sound. Woke up at 3 in the morning with a deer with its head stuck in my tent, checking me out, seeing what I was doing. I'm glad it was a deer.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. you know,
Yeah.
but yeah, people don't realize it. I don't even having the house up and up north like we did, and the plains part of it. Before the woods. There's so much you can hear these things walking on the roof of the house. You can hear them jumping over fences. There's just so much noise out there. People don't realize how much noise. Plus, the universe makes noise too. The sky itself makes noise. So people don't realize any of that.
That's right.
What is the best thing about what you do? What do you think the best thing is about what you do?
um, the camaraderie with the people you meet and meeting some really interesting people like Dr. Meldrum and
Mm-hmm.
Bob Gimlin. Bob actually has ridden in my Jeep. I picked him up at the airport one year and had the honor of chauffeuring Bob around. Um, just some of the people you meet. um, and being out in the wilderness, out in the woods, doing stuff you don't normally, that you would never thought you would have done. I never thought I would be out in the middle of the woods at 2 or 3 in the morning in the dark with no freaking
Mhm.
light on. If you'd have told me that when I was younger, I'd have laughed, said you're freaking crazy. And but meeting people, seeing areas, seeing
Mhm.
waterfalls, just a lot of scenery. And then like we spoke at the International Bigfoot Festival in 2018 in Kennewick, Washington. So we got to go to Washington, and we went and seen Mount
Wow.
Rainier, and then we were in the north of California. We were there for the 50th anniversary of the Bob
Mhm.
Gimlin thing. To go see Mount Shasta. Went and seen Cannon Beach, Oregon, and I got to
Mhm.
see a lot of places. I never thought I would get a chance to go to Oregon or Washington or have a reason to go, and just you know, I love seeing that. I've got some,
Mhm.
you know, great pictures. I've got one beam of light making it through all the redwoods, which was just fantastic. And
Mhm.
I've had people look at the picture and say, what 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 did you do to get that effect? I'm like, that's not an effect. That's how it looks. And I always say, hey, God put it there. I just click the button, kind of thing.
Speaking of beam of light, I've been holding off on this question all night.
I know where
I
you're
mean,
going.
you know where I'm going with this.
I think
Do you think that there is a correlation between Sasquatch and alien life forms? Have you seen anything like these blue orbs or anything like that out there that other people have claimed to see?
I've seen some weird stuff. I've seen orbs. I'm kind of thinking maybe that might be more spiritual. I don't know what it is.
Mhm.
Or ghostly. I don't know what it is.
Mhm.
I've talked to people that have went who just did the ghosting thing, and they had stuff follow them home, and I'm like, no, I don't want none of that. Bigfoot can't follow me home where I live now. He can't do that. Um, I do, and this might make some people mad. I don't think aliens brought Bigfoot here to mine gold. I think they were always here. I think they had a decent kind of relationship with the Native Americans. I think there was give and take. There's stories of gifting, and um, Indians would leave them stuff. Bigfoot would bring uh, ginseng or whatever from higher elevations, leave it for them because they
Mhm.
watch it stuff they watch what they harvested. Um, I think they've always been here. I
Mhm.
don't think aliens brought them. Why wouldn't they took them with them? And if you've got that kind of, if you have an alien spacecraft and you can travel distances, would you have enough equipment to pull gold out of the earth or whatever? I don't know, but I
Mhm.
think Bigfoot's always been here. Now, I will say, because those reports were, the cattle mutilations and all that have happened in the United States, and aliens abducting people like Travis
Mhm.
Walton and stuff like that. They probably have the means to pluck a Bigfoot up out of the woods and look at it and see what's going
Mhm.
on. I mean, that yes, I'm on board with that, but
Mhm.
I don't think I don't think they were brought here. I think they've always been here.
Now, along that line, what do you think they are?
I don't know. I think there's ape characteristics.
Mhm.
There's there's hominid characteristics. There's both.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just know, and I'm gonna might make some people mad here with this one, but I'm not on board with the dog man thing. Because to
Mhm.
me that's more science fiction. And I'll tell you right now, if there's something that's half man, half dog in the woods, I will shoot that because that shouldn't be here. Um, but Bigfoot, like say one was found and they can actually line it up on the tree or whatever,
Mhm.
it's going to make sense wherever it fits in. It's going to be like, okay, or, you know,
Mhm. Mhm.
but
I always felt it was an offshoot. I think it's related to us. I think it goes back to the ancient man, but I think at some point when the continents separated, they might have got stuck over here. And then they weren't as fully developed as the others. Just it's like anything else.
yeah, but there's different kinds of them because the ones in the Pacific Northwest are different than the one that's down in Florida that's called the skunk ape, and
Mhm.
and that's one thing I noticed early on in research is the one was really robust that lived in the Pacific Northwest, and the one that was the way it was described that was in the Florida and the swamps and stuff like that. The one that one is actually built to navigate swamps. It's not as big, and it's just the way it. and that's what nature would do in real life.
Right. Right.
Your creature, your animal, whatever it is going to be made in a certain way to maximize itself in its terrain it's in.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and to me, if Bigfoot was just one size fits all, like a cookie cutter kind of thing, that
Mhm.
would be like
Mhm.
a major red flag for me. But no, this thing changes to fit its terrain. To me,
Mhm.
that's evidence.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. So, what do you see happening to your group in the future, and the kind of stuff you're going to be exploring?
We're going to keep going out. And the other Mike retired. He's concentrating on. They're going to get their house fixed up, and they want to travel. And
Mhm.
they've got a Mike's son Jordan had a child and spent time with a grandkid and stuff like that. So I'm going to be doing the lectures on my own starting this coming year. Still going to do that. Have a few lined up already, but we're going to keep going out and researching. One thing we're going to try this year, we're going to keep doing the animal calls
Mhm.
because they're a little bit different than just doing a howl or a wood knock or something. Uh, we're also going to do a kind of a musical thing this year. Our guide in Adams County suggested playing some of the lighter flute and drumming, kind of the Native American kind of stuff, to see
Mhm.
what happens. And why not?
Mhm.
I always joke and say, hey, if we're going to do that, we got to blast a little heavy metal, get them riled up.
Yeah,
Like, no,
get them going. Yeah,
Dad.
get them going. I always ask this question, usually with people with books, but in this case, because you've got audio evidence, you're on the strip in Las Vegas, and you got the Sierra Sounds guy over here. You got
Ron
Mr.
Moorhead.
Oregon. You got Mr. Oregon with with the English voices over here. How do you get people to come in to really take notice of what you have?
To me, it's the audio.
Mhm.
Because just like anyone, everybody has stories, and you have
Mhm.
evidence to tag along with that. To me, that's a big thing, whether it be pictures, footprints, and the audio.
Mhm.
And we kind of got a mixture of all three. But to me, the audio is different because you can look at a track, you can look at a picture. Has it been doctored? What's going on? Did you make this? And of course, with audio too, because someone will say, "Well, that's someone doing something," but David Ellis's equipment can tell that if that's something manufactured
Mhm.
or if it's an actual living creature. Now, when long story short, when David Ellis has looked and analyzed a lot of our audio for the last, I don't know, 5 years or so, and because it didn't happen back in 2014 when that happened. We didn't know him yet. He said, I can't tell you it's Bigfoot. Bigfoot's not been certified, but what I can say, it is a living creature that you have recorded. It is no known animal in North America, and that some of your recordings, like the one that you played tonight, actually pegged on the spectrograph higher than a baboon. So that I can state. That's something skeptics cannot take away, which means
Absolutely.
that wasn't a coyote, that wasn't a dog, that wasn't a person pretending to be something.
Right.
That was something alive that created that.
Absolutely. How can people find you, sir?
We're on Facebook, Ohio Night Stalkers.
All right. Thank you so much. This was so fascinating. I'll have to get you on again to talk more. I could pick your brain all day.
Cool, why not? And yeah, I'm game for it.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for
Well,
having me on.
I, I
Happy
will.
New Year.
Thank you. You have a happy new year. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Fine, my
But
bad.
yeah, definitely going to get a hold of you again. Okay. I would love to have you back on and talk about this stuff. There's so
Okay,
much fascination for me, and I know my audience too. I mean, the questions were coming in, and that's just really cool. But thank you so much.
all right, yeah, and they can come to the Facebook page and they can ask questions. I'll try to get to them. And yeah, yeah, but
Okay.
I'd love to be back on. Thank you.
All right. You have a great new year.
You
Bye
too.
bye.
Bye.
All right. Yeah, I'm so fascinated with this stuff. I could listen all day to these. In fact, I have a couple more if you guys would like. I can play for you maybe on the next show on Friday. I did get a couple more. I was only allowed to upload five things, and I added my end credits, and so I can only upload three sound things. But there's two more for him that he gave me. Absolutely fascinating stuff. Okay, no show here tomorrow. I'll be back at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Friday with medium Nancy Matz. We're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff related to ghost hunting. Just a lot of my experiences in hotels and stuff. We're going to be talking about different experiences because Nancy and I kind of shared an experience today that although it was in a different spot, I had a similar experience as she did. So it's going to be kind of neat to talk about that stuff. So she'll be back on Friday with me. And then again, like I said, the shows are spotty. I'm gonna on Sunday night. I will be starting to book people so we can get more consistent with these shows. I'm getting really excited. I'm getting used to restream. As you can tell, that's the first time we ever ran like extra stuff during a show. I finally figured out how to get my credits in and all that stuff. So I'm starting to get a good feel for restream, and so things are going to get more and more smoother. I will not be on TikTok tonight. I'm off tonight. However, I'll be back tomorrow at TikTok 7 p.m. Pacific doing some free card readings, past, present, and future. And I'm working with TikTok to get everything taken care of so I can do all that stuff on all three networks at once, and that way I won't leave Facebook and YouTube out on that stuff. So I'm doing work like that. Got a lot coming up. I'm going to be doing private readings starting on Saturday. So that'll happen on Saturdays and Sundays where I'm doing private readings for people. 8 cards, $15, any topic you want. Celtic Cross. For people that subscribe over at TikTok, those readings will be free once a month. Okay? Everybody gets a once a month freebie if you're a subscriber. Going to start doing some ghost hunting. Got to get my team trained back up on a bunch of new equipment. Get everybody trained. Going to start ghost hunting, and we're going to be taking you guys with us ghost hunting. So there's a lot coming up, and I'm looking forward to doing that for. Oh yes, thank you for reminding me. Psychic development classes. Going to be teaching classes as well for everybody that's interested. And so all this stuff is coming up, and I'm really excited about it. Really excited, and then getting this show back, back to 6 days a week and powered up like that, working with TikTok or wherever we may be. Now, that being said, if TikTok does go away, everybody, can you guys help me out by going over to Clapper and registering over there and following California Haunts over at Clapper, because that looks like that's where we are going to land. Um, we tried YouTube, wasn't too thrilled about it. The Clapper is the closest thing to TikTok that we can find right now. There's a couple other places that we're still kind of looking at, but it looks like the majority is going to be at Clapper. So if you guys could go over to Clapper, CLAPPER, and sign up over there and follow, that would be great too. All right. Well, that being said, I will see you guys here on this show on Friday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, and then I will see you guys tomorrow. Those of you that are on TikTok, I will see you guys tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific for the first readings of 2025. Have a great evening, you guys. See ya.